It is two after the hour. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into this, and I'll watch that waiting room there, and Paul's going to watch the chat room for us as always. Yep, here comes somebody else. Okay, so hey, welcome to. It's hard to believe that the seventh installment in our creating an employment brand series. And it's been, gosh, I can't believe we're at July already. And this month we're going to talk about four pillars that you can use to really revolutionize your recruitment strategy. And I love Paul's little tagline there, and crush your competition, right? Because it is all about having a competitive edge, right? And so I love the image of the four pillars because when you think about any structure, think about your house. There's typically four sides to a house, right? Four walls in a room. We like the idea of fours as a building block for bigger things. And that's what today's session is all about, this building block, because we can't do anything in our business without a really good recruitment strategy, right? If we're not pulling the right talent in, there's not a lot that we can do once poor talent is in to fix them. And so today is all about how do we pull that talent in? How do we draw talent to us so that folks, it's not as much of us pulling as folks banging on our door, right? And so that's where we're going to head today in our session. I know we've got some very familiar faces in the room, and so we like to keep this interactive. We got some new tech we're going to play with here in a little bit that Paul's going to try out. So forgive us if it goes a little haywire. We're trying something new today that will make hopefully your experience a lot better as well. And so when we think about our recruiting strategy, we really believe you can fill your open roles with top tier talent. Okay, when you address the four pillars we're going to talk about today. And these pillars are not a step by step. It's not step one, step two. They're just four things we've got to get in place. And ultimately, you may see as we go through this, maybe you're doing one of them really well. That's awesome, right? Then you can just focus on the other three. And so, again, I think it's a matter of people always ask us, well, Ed, with these four things, where do we start? Well, what's the most help needed area? Okay. And so we'll spend time with each of these. And again, we want you to be active in the chat room. So please fire away. Whoever of us is not in active presenter mode will be following the chat for your questions. So you're in the right spot today if you're frustrated because you've got some recruiting strategies that aren't working. I'm not even going to ask the question how many of you are hiring, because you probably all are, because everybody's hiring, right? And the follow-up question to that is always, are you finding the talent you need? And everyone goes, no, I'm not finding the talent I need either. And so there is a sense of frustration in the marketplace. And if you believe that misery loves company, then you've got a lot of company, because everybody is frustrated right now that some of their tried and true recruitment strategies are just not working the way that they used to work. And we're going to address that for you. Maybe you've got some burnout happening because you've got some open positions, and you're asking more of the people that you have, especially in maybe the skilled labor positions. You might find some people are getting burnt out where they just are saying, gosh, I'm tired of the overtime. I'm tired of going full speed ahead, 40 hours a week and not having that moment to just sort of catch my breath. And finally, if you really want to build out your recruitment strategy so that you can get the attention of job seekers. And this one's key because, when we use the term job seekers today, it's not just about the people who are actively looking, but maybe it's the person who's just kind of content in their job, but they're not really fulfilled. They're not maybe experiencing the level of joy they would like to experience out of their workplace. Those we're going to call job seekers, right? Anyone who's not truly satisfied with what they're doing and how they're doing it and who they're doing it for. Those are our candidates out there, and we want to try and reach them. So here are the things we're going to discover by the end of today's session, in just one short hour. We're going to look at some old school business processes that I'm willing to bed some of you are still doing, that we've got to get them out of our organization because they stop people from applying or they stop people from moving through your applicant system. Okay. So we're going to highlight some of those processes, and we'll talk to some of you maybe about some processes that you recognize are no longer working for you. We're also going to take a look at why sometimes you feel, and maybe rightly so, that your competition is outshining you on social media. And we've got a playbook to make that happen. And we also have some cool stuff for you at the end of the day today. We're kind of excited. We always try to give you takeaways. We're kind of excited about today's takeaways for you. So that's a little teaser for for an hour from now. But we do want to help you to see the things we have to be doing on social media. And one of the things that we'll get pushback on from folks is, Ed, I don't like Facebook. Ed, I don't want Twitter. I get it, right? Not all of us like all of these things. But the reality is, depending on the age group or the skill sets that we're hiring for, those people are out there. And so, maybe you don't like going to the county fair, but if people you're hiring are at the county fair, you got to go to the county fair to get them, right? It's kind of that same environment. We got to go to where the people are. And finally, what we're going to discover by the end of today is how you can stop missing out on talent by looking at your applicant pool and diversifying. Now, that D word there has connotations of race, of gender, and all the other things. Yeah, we're talking about that, but we're also talking about the diversity of places that you're going to look for talent. Okay. So those three things, an hour from now, you're going to have the answers to. All right. So I think most of you know us by now. There's a lot of repeat offenders in the room today. But for those of you, because there are some names we don't recognize, my name is Ed Crow. I am the talent transformation expert for organizations that want to seek eight-figure growth. And I work with organizations on their recruitment and people strategies to make that happen for them. And my partner in crime is Paul Newton. Paul, tell them about yourself.
Thanks, Ed. I'm a strategic storyteller. I helped Ed with his storytelling and in his business. This was back in 2020. We met on a webinar just like this, and he asked me to help him with how he gets across what he does for people. And when we worked together, he thought, wow, you know what? A lot of our people out there need to tell a better story about their companies and the brand that they're presenting to the employees. And so we've been working together on that for the last 4 years, just on putting together employment brands for companies. And I actually see a number of names people I've spoken with on different panels to actually get insight into what's so great about the companies that they work for, and to be able to put that out in the messaging that we use to attract other people just like the great employees that we have. And that's what an employment brand is. It's just marketing how great it is to work in the workplace. So that's what we'll be talking more about today. And I'm looking forward to interacting with you and doing that.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Away we go, y'all. We are not messing around here. Hey, Paul, tell me about next month's webinar real quick so they can get that on their agenda.
Yeah, well, one of the things with marketing is that it's a funnel, right? You start by putting your message out to a large audience, and then you move people down through this funnel until you get just the right people. And the awareness to onboarding, it starts by generating awareness about your company and that you're hiring and what kind of things they can expect, and narrowing it down to that skilled, high level, top tier talent that you want to hire and onboarding them. And we'll show you every level of the recruitment funnel and how you can address those levels better so that you get the candidates you want. And that's on Wednesday, August 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, it's going to be a great sister companion to the table we're going to set today. You could argue that we're setting the table, we're setting the meal out, but then it's all about the presentation of the meal, right? And this is one of Paul's favorite topics. He's really good at this one. And so I know he's looking forward to sharing these 6 steps with you next month. So thanks, Paul. So, hey, let's jump into today and our 4 pillars of an effective recruitment strategy. Again, I want to stress these are not in any particular order. They are not in order of importance or anything. They are all equally important. We've got to build all of them out in order to have a strong recruitment strategy. Okay.
And just like to tease what's at the end, we want to share with you a way of measuring how effective your recruitment strategy is, like both at this point and then after you implement some of these pillars. So we have some metrics that you can use to to get that measure, and that's what you'll be able to get your hands on.
Yeah, you do like to tease the audience, don't you? All
The
right. So, hey,
younger sister. Oh.
there you go. Hey, so the first pillar that we want to talk about is that we have to have a system that attracts the best talent from a diverse set of sources. Okay. So we're going to play with some of our new toys here, and I'm going to stop this share for a moment. And Paul's going to bring up a whiteboard, and we want to open up for discussion the types of sources that you're using. And so if you'd like to throw things into the chat, or I will allow you to unmute yourself as well and toss out. And if you say social media, I want you to be specific. Give us one specific social media. If you say internet, tell us exactly on the internet. What I'd love to do is get a nice list here so that we can share it amongst each other and the things that are working for each other. So Paul is ready whenever y'all are. Okay, so Juliet says association job boards.
For example, I mean, I'm in healthcare, trauma centers. We're looking for nurses to be part of our staff. So we would put it on the State Nurses Association job board, for example.
So you put it on the State Nurses Association. Are there other?
Right,
Oh,
and
no.
we have a trauma center association that we're connected with. And so just, specialty job boards. Email even, I'm part of a listserv of nurses and health system providers. I put it on listservs.
Okay. Anybody else out there? What throw out some places that you look for, sources that you use to find candidates. What else do we have? Indeed. Okay. And this is the one that we hear most commonly. And so that's a place to post. It's a job board you can post on. And again, you can enlist them for a number of different for reaching different audiences, of course. But that's one platform that you can use to source candidates. And then Julie Trickler, she says Indeed, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So in terms of the social media, LinkedIn and Facebook. And Juliet says LinkedIn has free job postings for 30 days. Okay. So Julie, you're using LinkedIn and Facebook. How do you find those work for you?
So as far as Facebook goes, we recruit and hire all over the state of Texas and Oklahoma. So, for instance, for myself, I hire for the whole state of Oklahoma. So I will go look on Facebook for specific job boards in the cities that our branches are located in. And the same thing with Texas. If any of my fellow recruiters have, smaller areas that maybe are not getting a lot of traffic because they're outside of big metropolitan areas, I will go look for those specific job boards and those specific pages and post the QR code and just a little brief job description of what our jobs are that are open and available and how to apply.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. And that's great. Like zeroing in on locations where you want to hire. That's absolutely key. Any other? So I'm going to look through this list. We had some great sharing from.
Okay.
Julie was talking about how how she targets job boards and community job boards in areas where she's hiring. And I was just about to dig into a few other ones. So Eli, you said you have a recruiting company that uses LinkedIn, Facebook, and Indeed. Ed, we talked about job boards and some social media. How about you keep the ball rolling there with other sources that we can utilize?
Yeah, so when we think about the diverse sources, I've had clients have great success with, um, let's say you're out for lunch and you're getting excellent service from your wait person, and you know that the skill sets that that wait person is showing are skills that you could use, maybe because you have a customer facing business. Handing the business card and saying, "Hey, I'm sure you're happy here, but we love to have energetic, bright people like yourself working for us. Would love to talk more with you about that." I have customers that have tremendous success doing something as simple as that. The local barista at Starbucks, those kinds of folks, or you're at the mall and you get great customer service from someone. So even those types of interactions, we want to get not just ourselves, but anyone who's involved in the hiring process with us to start thinking about those things. And if they can think about those kinds of interactions, then our employees start thinking about it too, right? So many employee referral programs tend to focus on like friends and family, and folks forget that I can refer the person waiting at me at the drive, excuse me, at the drive-through. Has anyone tried that? Anyone in the room today tried that type of method for recruiting people?
Julie
Julie
says she
says I
recruits
recruit
servers.
servers at big box stores. Okay. So, and does that work for you, Julie?
I don't always find that they end up applying, but handing them a recruiting card or even my business card seems to impress them quite a bit, that I would go out of my way to try and recruit them. About half the time it works. I'll see an application come through.
That's cool. Okay. Eli says, "Oh, Uber drivers. How cool is that?" I travel a lot as well, and yeah, you get some really cool people you share that 10-minute ride with. And you got to think about the fact these are people that are entrepreneurs. They are, trying to hustle, and maybe they're doing the Uber thing on the side. Met a lot of Uber drivers that do it full time because they just love interacting with people. Eli, have you had any success with that? One interview. Okay. So I guess the message here with this one is, if you're in sales, you've probably heard the phrase always be selling or always be closing, right? You could adapt that to our session today and always be recruiting. Even if you don't have an opening right now, but you just run into that person and say, "Hey, here's where I work. We love working with good people, and you're a good person." If we take that attitude, we can begin. I mean, honestly, when you think about it, our recruiting source list really becomes endless. It truly does. Um, Even reaching out to, and forgive me if while I was on the power failure, if you talked about this, even going out to community organizations, like maybe your local vision society that works with folks with vision impairments, or folks with hearing impairments, those types of organizations. One of my clients actually deals and helps folks who have disabilities get employable skills so they can go out into the workplace and be very productive employees. And they even help the employers in situations where maybe a modification has to be made to the work site in order to make this person be able to work there. They help the employer with that. So there are so many places that are untapped. And I can remember the first time I had my eyes opened on that front was 30 years ago. Um, I met the head of our local, back then it was called the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Service. And he's like, hey, would you guys ever consider hiring some of our people? And of course, my first thought, shame on me, but my first thought was, oh gosh, how are we going to communicate with someone who's deaf? And, all those thoughts go through my head from a logistics standpoint. But he said, hey, for some of your jobs, there's probably not a lot of communication needed in the warehouse. I said, yeah, you're kind of right. Hey, go unload that truck and here's how kind of thing, or go load that truck. And so we did a test run and we found that the biggest investment we had to make was $200. Because remember, 30 years ago, we're using VHS tapes, right, for training, was we had to have a $200 closed caption decoder that would attach itself onto the VHS machine so that the closed captions would come, right? Deaf and hard of hearing came in with our supervisors, did some very basic sign language classes with them. And I'm telling you, these couple of guys that we got initially were some of the best employees we had. And so I say that not because we're not all aware of how employable those with physical challenges can be, but the fact that those are untapped resources for us in many cases, because there are organizations in all of our communities that help folks like that, that may not be on our radar because we think, oh, well, I can't have a person that looks like X or has this challenge being in this role. When honestly, there's a lot of things these folks can do that can support our organization. So I think we're probably ready to move on to the next one, Paul. So the second pillar now. This one is one that focuses on skill shortages. So when we think about our recruiting practices, so oftentimes I hear about, oh, Ed, we need these positions filled. Okay, I get that. We need bodies in seats. Okay, maybe I get that. But so rarely do I hear folks say, hey, we are missing these skill shortages. And so this pillar is all about identifying the shortages in skill sets that you have that are hindering your ability to meet your key strategic objectives in the business world. Okay. And so when we think about this, now our recruiting message changes to, hey, we're hiring great people. Okay, that's not a bad message. But what if I said, hey, I'm hiring great people who love to work at the intersection of technology and customer focus? Okay, that just got very specific. And sometimes people are afraid to get specific because they feel that the message is then too narrow and we've got to cast this wide net. I think there are situations where that's effective, but I think when you're talking about critical skill shortages, the more narrow your recruiting message is, the more closely it speaks to the kind of people that you want. So, Paul, you're the great wordsmith that in the room here. Can you talk about the way you've changed some of the messaging up so that people were targeting the exact kind of person they wanted?
Well, this starts to work into the employment brand and showing, like pulling the curtain back and showing what it looks like inside the organization. And so when we were working with an engineering company, we didn't just talk about engineers. We talked about the projects that were being worked upon, like in wastewater management and in terms of environmental projects that were being done in communities, showing the actual types of work and product that that these people would be working on. So we were engaging people that had interests in doing things in the community, and they had to have engineering skills as well. And that was what we were looking for, was the skill shortage was with environmental engineers, but we
Yeah.
were looking for a specific one, somebody that wanted to see the end product
Mhm.
in their community.
And so I know that we've covered in past sessions the idea of how you write your job post. So I don't want to really, reiterate that. But the more that we can write a job post that speaks to the person with the skill set, not that says, oh, we're looking for a plumber who can unclog our drains. Well, everyone knows that's what a plumber does. But if the plumber you need is one who's going to go out, like I think about the HVAC firm that comes to my home and services my my furnace, my AC, that kind of stuff, right? These guys come in, they're so professional. They leave, they put the little booties on so they're not dragging dirt in the house. They come up and they explain what they've done. They take pictures of if they're working on the inside of something. Hey, here's what I saw, Mr. Crow. Here's what's going on. Hey, let me show you this, right? So they're more than just a techie who comes in, tinkers and bangs around in my basement and leaves, right? Like have been taught how to communicate with the customer really well. And that sets their organization apart from a lot of the other firms that are here in my area of central Pennsylvania. And so to me, that ability to communicate with someone who has a technical background and works with their hands, to me, that's a critical skill shortage, because there's lots of people who love to work with their hands, but don't necessarily have the communication set to deal with a customer. And so
So
that's
Ed,
important for that organization.
how do you go from a body shortage, like, identifying, okay, I'm short bodies, to saying, here are the skill sets and I know you've interacted with a number of people that are experiencing this, they've got job openings, but you help them zero in on those critical skill shortages. How do you do
Yeah,
that?
because we look at it, the second piece of this is, what are your key strategic objectives? What are you trying to accomplish in your business, either this year, in maybe a 3-year strategic plan, or maybe it's just this quarter? What are you trying to achieve? And what's keeping you from getting there? Okay. So I'm working with an organization now that we're finding that people's ability to manage their time properly is keeping them from focusing on the things that really matter. So they get caught up in, oh, I got all these emails I got to catch up on. Oh, I've got customers knocking on my door. Got to address that, right? And next thing you know, 8 hours of the day is gone. It's 5 o'clock, and they're like, I don't know what I did today, right? And so they're finding that the ability to manage time and prioritize is something that's lacking in their people. And sure, those are things that we can go in and train on, right? But what would it be like if we went out and said, hey, we know this is a critical skill shortage, the ability to prioritize and time manage. And so in our advertising, hey, do you manage your time well? Are you able to successfully juggle several priorities at once in order to stay focused on key business results? Then we want to talk to you, right? So again, it comes back to kind of mixing what we need with what Paul has mentioned in how we write those descriptions or those ads for these positions. Okay, let's move on to number 3 here. And this is all about strengthening your employment brand. I know we've been using the term employment brand. We've talked about employment brand in a previous session, but Paul, do you want to take this one and talk a little bit about it and why it's so critical?
For the most part, companies have a big focus on their business brand, like what they're known for providing to their customers, and the services or products they sell. But the area of the focus around what they offer to candidates and what a person will get out of working for a company, that's not something they're so good at marketing. And it's the reason for this series that we're holding, and it's something that we do to help companies to attract better talent. So an employment brand, it's just a matter of taking the experience employees have while working for you and marketing it and making it look better than what they're currently experiencing. Because those people who are out there that have skills and that could solve your problems and that are only sort of happy with the jobs they have, you want to show them how much better it is in your company. And so if you have a good recruitment strategy, it actually will build that employment brand because it's attracting and pulling employees from that have the proper skill sets from other jobs and that's really what we have to do in this market is we need to attract people away from other companies
Yeah,
to our company. And
for sure.
in doing so, we're building our employment brand.
Yeah, so I know again, I don't want to beat this one up because we've done quite a lot on employment brands so far this year on our webinars. And so if you missed any of those, just a reminder that all the replays are actually out on my website at edcrow.com and go under speaking, and you'll see 2024 webinars under there. Not only will you see the upcoming, if you continue to scroll down, you will see the replay links. And so I know about maybe 2 months ago, we did one specifically on employment brand. And so your recruitment strategy has to play into the employment brand, right? Because they play off of one another. And it is a bit of a which came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing, right? Because we kind of need to work on both of these at the same time because our recruiting impacts the employment brand and the employment brand impacts the recruiting. Okay. And so we want to be able to sell the organization that we have. Now, the biggest question that I get is from folks will say, well, Ed, but what if our employment brand is not where we want it to be? My response is always, that's okay. That's how we then recruit. So, my employment brand isn't where I want it to be. And I'm sitting interviewing Paul. I may say, Paul, hey, look, our culture is not great right now. But I think that you're one of the people that can help me get it on track. It's going to take some time. We've got some skeletons we've got to get out of closets. And what I'm doing is I'm opening up to Paul as a candidate so he can say, you know what, I want to be part of this change. I want to be a change agent. I'm okay that you've shown me some of your warts, right? Because I want to help clean the place up. And, we're so afraid sometimes to share the things that aren't going well in our organization with potential candidates because we're afraid we're going to scare them away. But I believe if I'm talking to the right candidate, they're going to say, I'm up for that challenge because there are people out there that thrive on solving those kinds of problems. And to be fair to Paul as my candidate, I wouldn't want to sugarcoat things. He steps into day one and goes, oh my gosh, what did I do? Right? I don't want that reaction because I want him to step in and say, okay, Ed told me things are going to be a little rough and they're a little rough and that's okay. We're going to get through this. And so, again, that's part of the employment brand. That transparency that I shared with him is huge for an employment brand and a recruiting standpoint, that we're not pulling any kind of bait and switch in the interview. The final pillar is that we have to create a workplace that engages everybody. Now, this may seem like an obvious one, right? We want employees that are engaged and employees that care. That has to start with the recruitment process. So too often, people will recruit for the skill set only. So we talked about, looking at the critical skill sets that you're missing and advertising for those. I'm not walking that back. What I'm saying is, okay, we find, again, let's just, say it's Paul and I, and he comes in for an interview and he's got all the skill sets that I'm looking for. But maybe there's something in his personality that I'm wondering, is he going to fit with my current workforce? How many of us, and I don't want you to put this in the chat, right? How many of us would hire Paul anyway because he fits everything that's on the job description and we'll think, well, he might be a square peg in a round hole, but we need the skill set, and so we're going to hire him anyway, right? Or do we have kind of the fortitude to say, you know what, Paul's a great guy, but I just don't think he's a good fit for our culture? That takes a real stiff upper lip when we're short people, right? But the danger is I bring Paul in, he's not happy because he doesn't fit and he starts to feel it right away. Other people start to feel it. They're uncomfortable. And he's not a bad guy. He's just, I'm trying to fit him somewhere if that's not working, right? And so when we think about engaging all of our people, this thing, we could write an entire webinar just on this slide. But in the interest of time, would some of you be willing to share in the chat some very specific employee engagement activities that work well for you? So we can get those sharing with the group here.
It's interesting, like, just what you're saying, Ed, about sharing, being transparent with the people you're hiring about the culture that you have versus the culture you want. And it is the kind of chicken and egg, right? To build your recruitment strategy, you need to make sure your employment brand is strong. And at the same time, you need your recruitment strategy to strengthen your employment brand. So they work hand in hand. And you also do want to turn to your employees that you have on hand and talk to them and ask them about what's working and what's not working. So you learn how to strengthen that, the engagement of the employees, as well as the employment brand that you're presenting to recruit.
So I'm not seeing anything coming through the chat that you're doing for engaging your people. Now, I know a lot of you in this room today, and I know some of you are doing some pretty cool things. So I'm going to give it another minute here in the hopes you're willing to share some of those neat things with the rest of the group. I will share one that a client who's not in the room does. They have, and they've been doing this for 20 some years, and it works amazingly well. It's called their Gotcha program. And it's, I got you doing something right. Okay. What's neat about it is this is peer recognition. So supervisors may not use the program to recognize their people. So, Paul and I are coworkers. We're working on a project together, and he goes above and beyond with a piece of it, right? I'm out sick one day, and he just takes over and gets this thing across the finish line. I can write him up a gotcha. I won't call it an award, a gotcha card. It goes in the gotcha box, okay? And, monthly, HR pulls the gotcha cards out, distributes them out to the employees. He'll see, oh, Ed wrote me up for a gotcha card, so it's a way for me to send him almost like a written thank you. But those gotcha cards get turned in for points, and points can be used for all kinds of things. Maybe he wants a gas card, or he wants a gift card, or, a restaurant card, free pizza, whatever it happens to be, right? And this works so well in their environment because they have a need to be a very team-based, cross-discipline type of environment. And you talk about engagement. In fact, they have an employee of the year, and even that is voted on only by peers, not by management. So again, we could talk a lot about employee engagement programs. They're important, but we have to think about the workplace and how we are actively looking to engage our people.
That's something from Juliet here.
Something came in. Okay. Staff spotlights on social media. Okay. Love it. Newsletters that help staff feel valued, along with showcasing staff at group meetings. Those are simple things, right? So we use Gotcha Doing More program. Okay. From Julie. We also have ongoing education, include travel, multiple bonus structures, year-end awards. Thank you for sharing. These things, again, employee engagement is not rocket science. If we talk to our people and say, hey, what does it mean to you to be recognized, or to keep you focused on our customers? They're going to tell you, oh, hey, I'm going to do this because of this scenario. Okay, great. Then that's how we keep them engaged and fired up. So I don't want you walking out thinking, like a lot of people do, oh gosh, an employee engagement program is going to cost me tens of thousands of dollars a year. I don't have it in my budget. It doesn't have to. It can be the little things. And oftentimes it's those little things that do so much more. Just make sure that those little things are the things that you're going to do for people, are things that they care about. That's the biggest takeaway from and employee engagement program. Okay, let's hop into the final piece we're going to look at today. And that's the new recruitment playbook. Okay, so times they are a changing and really have been ever since COVID. I mean, if you think back prior to COVID, there was a skill shortage then. I mean, COVID exacerbated the problem for sure. And I don't see the skill shortage letting up anytime soon. So, you know, the election later this year isn't going to solve the skill shortage problem. Getting out of, if we're even in a recession, is not going to solve the skill shortage problem. I mean, it's a long-term play, but there are things that we can do now. And so our talent acquisition has to be strategic. So if you think about some of the things we mentioned with the 4 pillars, we have to be really process oriented in how we go about acquiring talent, not filling roles, acquiring talent. Paul, do you want to weigh in here?
Well, just it goes back to what you were talking about with the strategic objectives of the company, and knowing where to look for the talent you need. Like so when we were talking about the sources, sourcing in the right places and identifying the skills gaps, that's being strategic.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times today's talent that we want, they're working, right? So we can't be afraid to poach people. In fact, the people we probably really want working for us may not even be looking. So it's a matter of how do we get them looking at us, okay? And that's where Paul's going to do an excellent job in his segments next month in talking about, you know, using, we had the picture of that funnel. He's going to talk about that recruitment funnel a lot next month. And how do we get that message out there to the masses and get them pulling through into our funnel, even if they're not actively looking for work? How can we draw their attention to us? Because the reality is, and I hinted about this just a little bit ago, social media has changed the playbook here. If we are not advertising on social media, if we are not active on social media as an organization, we're missing out. And I know we've talked about this on previous webinars, but it is so, so important. If your organization is out in the community, they're doing, say, United Way Day of Caring. I want my people out there taking video because we're out painting fence posts in the neighborhood. We're out at a daycare center, spreading mulch in the playground, whatever it is, right? And we've got maybe some quick videos of our employees having fun doing this. We've got pictures of the team all dirty because they were out, you know, painting for the day. You know, those kinds of things, they're not necessarily specific to recruitment, right? But what it says to me, if I'm, you know, following your organization or it pops up in my LinkedIn feed or something, is, like they're out there and those people are being given time to give back to their community. And Paul and I have on previous webinars highlighted some organizations that really do this well, that really do a great job of using social media to not just interact with potential customers, but to interact with potential candidates as well.
Yeah, this is where I'd say go look at your competitors, stalk them, check out their website, and if they're doing a good job on the careers page, they'll have their social media links, and they'll have a page for their employees, and their employees are sharing the experience at work and what they're doing, and they'll have they'll even have, you know, what kind of jobs are open and what it's like to work here, and they'll engage their employees to share about the experience, the work experience, which is the employment brand, and which is also the employee experience and the culture. So they work hand in hand, and it all comes back to 2 things. Like, if you're not a good place to work right now, you need to work on that, on being a good place to work, because people want to work in a place that's good. It doesn't mean it's the most fun place, and it doesn't mean that it's the the nicest place. It needs to have some strong points. Maybe it is that you're not the nicest place to work, but you pay really well. Like that will attract people. But maybe it's that you don't pay the best, but you're the nicest place to work, or there are really nice perks. Those are the things that you highlight, and that's what we covered last month in building your employment brand. There's 8 different factors you can address there. So if you want to dig into that, we showed some examples and we showed how companies are doing that. So these are the things that you can share on social media.
Yeah, yeah. And I love what you just said there, Paul, about you have to stalk your competition. And to even further clarify that, if you're a bank, don't just stalk other banks. For sure, do it. But where else are you drawing people from, right? Who else is recruiting the same kinds of people you are? Those are your competitors as well when it comes to talent acquisition. So stalk them as well. It takes some time for sure, but we have to, we're in a war for talent right now. And if we want to win the war, this is kind of our spy ops piece of winning the war, is going out and doing the stalking, doing our research to figure out what are our competitors doing to draw talent to them. And then our brand messaging, and don't confuse us with the marketing brand. We're talking about our employment brand messaging, okay? Has to address the multi-generational workforce, okay? I know we're all aware that for the last 30 some years, we've had 4 and in some cases 5 distinct generations represented in the workforce. One of my clients right now has several people well into their 70s still contributing at high levels in the organization and working full time. And then, of course, they've got 20 somethings coming right out of school. In some cases, maybe they're part-time out of high school. And so we have to think about the roles that we have and how different generations may want to hear our message. If you say, hey, we're the highest paid employer, okay, well, everyone needs money, but is that going to resonate with a boomer to the extent that it would resonate with a Gen Z? But if you said, hey, we have excellent benefits, Gen Z is like, whatever, I'm healthy. But a boomer, they'll perk up and say, oh, benefits? Hey, let's talk about this, right? So we have to be able to know our workforce, know where the skill sets are, and know the age groups that we're willing and can work with who still want to work with us, and develop a message that resonates with them. And that means that we may need, if you say, well, gosh, I can hire from any of the generations. Great. That may mean you need multiple messages out there, right? You may need one message on Facebook because certain generations are there, different message on Twitter, different message on Snapchat, the whole bit, right? So that's where it really gets hard, is developing those different messages, but they're absolutely essential if you want a message that speaks directly to the people that you want. Paul?
Yeah, so just look at the demographics, and you just have to see what platforms they look on. Where do they like to receive their information? Some generations are looking on YouTube, some are looking on Facebook, some are on TikTok. It's just a matter of making sure that your message resonates with who you're hiring. We got Juliet saying the mission of the organization can be powerful for attracting those who want to contribute in a meaningful way. And yep, you'll have sectors of the generations that are looking for meaning and wanting to contribute. Like the younger generations are looking for really environmental messages, and they want to know what you're doing to help environmental causes. Older generations have time and may not need the same financial sort of compensation, but want to do good. And so they may be open to certain things as well. So you just, think of who you're trying to attract and what message you're putting out there.
I mean, it's interesting because I do some volunteering, of course, in the community, and one of the organizations that I'm on the board of, while not a faith-based organization, definitely has a faith component to it. And it's a group that helps young women especially if they find themselves pregnant with no support from the man or what have you. And they were looking for someone to help in the marketing function. And the executive director said to me, "Hey Ed, how do we position this? Like how face forward do we want to be?" And I said, "Well, you have to talk about your mission, right? And it's all about helping these young women who are in a very difficult situation in their lives. And in many cases, some of these young women are terrified to go home and tell their parents they're pregnant and that kind of stuff. So we want someone who's compassionate, even though this is a marketing person, who's compassionate, who can relate to wanting to help a young woman with these kinds of decisions, right, that she's facing and these kinds of challenges." And so we wrote that into the job description. And while they didn't get a lot of candidates, 80% of the resumes they did get were spot on. And they had said, "Hey, that never happened before." So that's because you were honest and transparent about who you wanted, right? And that, that's a little off of the multi-generational thing, but it still speaks to, hey, our brand messaging has to address the people that we want working for us. All right. So the final thing, and it's not final because it's not important. It could be one of the most important things is, what processes do you have that get in the way? Paul and I saw or heard a stat. It's not an official stat. I can't verify this, but a good business associate friend of mine and business associate is in the IT field, specifically with HR systems. And they had found at one point that the average online employment application took 52 clicks to get through. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I'm not clicking 52 times on anything, right? That's a process. And what they were finding is people were bagging out of the application process because it was too unwieldy. The other age-old process is, you tell me to upload my resume, and then that takes me to another page where I'm entering in everything that's on my resume. Like, why did you just have me dual work that? And I'll hear from clients, "Oh, well, that's our applicant tracking system that does that." Okay, then get another applicant tracking system, because that applicant tracking system is costing you applicants, because the message you're sending is, "Hey, we're okay with you doing double work around here. And in fact, you should expect it," right? People are not going to do those things. And I will hear, "Oh, well, then they're lazy and I don't want them." I don't know. I just told you that I wouldn't click 52 times, and I don't consider myself to be a lazy person. So I don't know, Paul, you can share some stories too about processes you've seen.
Well, we just have a couple minutes, so I want to wrap up kind of to respect time. But one of the biggest things is, if a person can't go through the whole application process on a mobile phone, like right now, you're missing out on probably 60% of candidates right there, because that's how people are applying. So make sure that everything that you have is mobile friendly, because that's where the world is.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that may not sound like a process, but it absolutely is, right? Is your site mobile friendly? Is your website mobile friendly? I think I've used the example before, like, don't put a menu out there as a restaurant that's like a picture, and I can't even blow it up on my phone. Like, that's crazy, right? I want to see the menu before I go. People that are candidates for employment want to be able to get on their phone and look through your site and see things, find things easily. So here's what we're going to do with the whole process thing. And this is kind of fun. So we've got an offer for you. We got 2 offers for you this month. So the first one, we would absolutely be so appreciative if you would scan this QR code for us real quick and tell us what you thought about today's content. I don't add you to a mail list you don't want to be on. There's actually a little button that says, "Hey, add me or don't add me." Okay, so it's not about just getting your emails. But if you'd like, just for giving us this feedback, there is a button to check that will get you a free white paper download on how you can evaluate your recruiting sources. Okay. And it's, I think it's really comprehensive, but then again, Paul and I pulled it together. So, but we think it's a pretty comprehensive. It's like a 4-page document of a bunch of different things that you can do. No obligation whatsoever. But it's we think it's a fair trade for taking a couple of minutes here to answer just a few questions for us about what you thought about today's session. Because we do look at these results and we do use it to inform how we want to run future sessions. So I'll let this up for a minute and then we're going to wrap up here because I know we're at the top of the hour. I know the little power outage glitch got us a couple minutes behind there, I think. So I appreciate your patience there. And honestly, if you don't have time to do this today, when the recording hits my website next week, you'll get notified by that. This link will still be live. So you could still absolutely go in and scan it on replay as well. I'm going to assume by now that everyone has scanned and are actually in. So while you're rating us, to put you in an even better mood, we have a pretty cool offer for you. So if you take that download and you're looking through it saying, wow, there's a lot of stuff here. Hey, guess what? If you give us a call before the end of August, we are willing to do a free recruiting strategy analysis for you. You know, hop on a call, half hour or so, walk through the things you're doing, give you some pointers as a follow-up for today in a one-on-one type of setting. Now, if that's free, where do the savings come in? Well, the savings come in because if you want to take it to the next step and say, hey, guys, help me work on my employment brand or help me work on my actual strategy and putting it in place, again, prior to the end of August, if you engage us to do that, we're going to give you a pretty sweet deal on that service. So it was something that we've heard in our sessions that folks love our giveaways, and we felt, you know, it's one of those things that we need to say, hey, if you need some help, you know, and you're willing to take action quickly, let's get you the help you need, and we're willing to pitch in for some savings here in the dog days of summer. So again, no obligation. If you just say, hey guys, would love to get this free recruiting analysis, you know, shoot me an email and we'll get you on the calendar here and get that done for you. And that's a freebie, no obligation whatsoever. So Paul, would you like to bring us home?
Well, so we had the 4 pillars of the effective recruitment strategy. We had the playbook that you want to put in place to get things out on social media so people know that you're a great place to work. It's just a matter of like address the thing that stands out the most for you. Where could you have the most impact, or where have you not been focusing that would have a big impact for you? Start there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any questions, we absolutely love just to help out. So reach out anytime to Ed, you know, on Ed Crow's website, and we're here for you.
Yep. So thank you so much. I know we're just a couple of minutes over, and thank you for dealing with the little power outage glitch at my end, but I'm glad that did not interrupt things going on. You had a good chat with Paul while I was rushing to get back online. Look forward to seeing y'all next month again for the recruitment funnel discussion. Lots and lots of hardcore nuts and bolts takeaways on that session. Can't wait to see y'all then. Thanks so much. See you next month.
Have a great one.